Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnu Pad Padamam Saparvajik Charya Astro Tarasata Shishimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jam Vishnu Pad Padamam Saparvajik Charya Astro Tarasata Shishimad. Shringa Guru Shili Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananti Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Pramsiko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. New Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Their Divine Lordship Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai. Their Divine Lordship Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Shrimati Subhadra Ki Jai. Their Divine Lordship Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jamunamaya Gangamaya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Jaga Ki Jai. Transcendental Prashadam Distribution Ki Jai. Gaura Pramananda Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the summer devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the summer devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the summer devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the third canto, chapter 33. We're in text number 21. And today's topic will be about purifying attachments. And this is an image that I thought of when Devahūti was offering her prayers to Lord Kapila Dev. And she was marveling, what an astonishing incarnation, right? Inconceivable nature of the Lord. His body contains the entire cosmic manifestation, and he's condescended to take birth from her abdomen. You see? In his other cosmic activities, here he's lying on the banyan leaf at the end of the millennium. So this shows the personal, affectionate nature of the Supreme Lord. And he engages in such pastimes just for us, for his devotees. Is that amazing? So this is what she has. There's an analogy used that her grief was compared to a cow's who lost his calf. So this is a nice analogy. So she's purifying her attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so let's dive into the verse. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. Apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvāpy abhūn naṣṭe. Vatse gaur vatsalā. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvāpy abhūn naṣṭe. Vase gaur vatsalā. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvāpy abhūn naṣṭe. Vatse gaur vatsalā. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. naṣṭe. vatsalā. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvāpy abhūn naṣṭe. vatse vatsalā. Vaishnavis. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvāpy abhūn naṣṭe. vatse vatsalā. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvā abhūn naṣṭe. vatse vatsalā. Vanaṁ pravrajite patyāv. apatya-virahāturā. jñāta-tattvāpy abhūn naṣṭe. vatse vatsalā. Vanam. To the forest. Pravrajite patyau. When her husband left home. Apatya-viraha. By separation from her son. Āturā. Very sorry. jñāta-tattvā. Knowing the truth. Api. Although. Abhūt. She became. Naṣṭe vatse. When her calf is lost. Gauḥ. A cow. Iva, like. Vatsalā, affectionate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Devahūti's husband had already left home and accepted the renounced order of life. And then her only son, Kapila, left home. Although she knew all the truths of life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son, just as a cow is affected when her calf dies. Jai. Would you like to repeat? Devahūti's husband had already left home and accepted the renounced order of life. And then her only son, Kapila, left home. Although she knew all the truths of life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son. Just as a cow is affected when her calf dies. Wow. Purport. A woman whose husband is away from home or has taken the renounced order of life should not be very sorry, because she still has the presence of her husband's representative, her son. It is said in the Vedic scriptures, ātmaiva putro jāyate, the husband's body is represented by the son. Strictly speaking, a woman is never widowed if she has a grown son. Devahūti was not very much afflicted while Kapila Muni was there, but upon his departure, she was very afflicted. She grieved not because of her worldly relationship with Kardama Muni, but because of her sincere love for the personality of Godhead. The example given here is that Devahūti became just like a cow who has lost her calf. A cow bereft of her calf cries day and night. Similarly, Devahūti was aggrieved, and she always cried and requested her friends and relatives, "Please bring my son home so that I may live, otherwise I shall die." This intense affection for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although manifested as affection for one's son, is spiritually beneficial. Attachment for a material son obliges one to remain in material existence. But the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Lord, brings one elevation to the spiritual world in the association of the Lord. Every woman can qualify herself as much as Devahūti, and then can also have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear as the son of Devahūti, he can also appear as the son of any other woman, provided that woman is qualified. If one gets the Supreme Lord as a son, one can have the benefit of bringing up a nice son in this world, and at the same time get promotion to the spiritual world to become the face-to-face associate of the personality of Godhead. Wow, very encouraging, huh? Jai. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksus Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upagadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Jai Pataka Swaminiti Namane Namachara Pradayane Nitya Kripa Pradayane Gorakata Damadara Nagar Gramatarane. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Paschachade Satarane Vancha Kopa Tubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So the translation again. Devahūti's husband had already left home and accepted the renounced order of life. And then her only son, Kapila, left home. Although she knew all the truths of life and death, and although her heart was cleansed of all dirt, she was very aggrieved at the loss of her son, just as a cow is affected when her calf dies. Jai. So as you know I like to do, let's get an overall picture of what's happening in the chapter here. So here we are in this chapter 33, Activities of Kapila. And we're actually text 21, right? 13 to 32 is Devahūti achieves perfection. So this is her practice. We see text 13 to 23. Bhakti, she performed austerities. We're going to see she's going to go into meditation, and then she'll achieve this bliss, and she'll actually get free from this birth and death. And she actually becomes very purified, and her body actually, physical body becomes a sacred river. So everything you do in devotional service has an effect, right? Even your body becomes purified. And then if you're a purified person, you're going and associating in the material world, that association affects people, and they can become purified. Not even if you just don't say anything, they just see you and appreciate something about you. They make some advancement. So, when I first read this verse, I was like, it's kind of a paradox here, isn't it? Devahūti, she's a great soul. She just received all this spiritual knowledge from her son. I mean, so many chapters we read, so enlightening. And it's even described she was cleansed of all dirt. And yet, when Lord Kapila left, she's overcome with grief like a cow, it's described, who lost her calf. So this seemed like a contradiction to me at first. And, how can an enlightened person feel such intense sorrow? But then we're so fortunate to have such nice purports by Srila Prabhupada, and lectures and other devotees doing research on these particular topics and things. So when we look deeper and we try to do some studying and research, and then we realize this is not an ordinary grief. Even the purports clarify that this intense emotion was for a purified object, the Supreme Lord. So it became purified because her object was the Supreme Lord. And so her sorrow was born from that sincere love that she had for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She actually had deep love for him. And so just see, it wasn't like, of course it was like her real son, right? She had affection for him, of course, but then she fell in love with him as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it wasn't a worldly relationship. And so this was a major realization for me, that our most powerful emotions, they're not obstacles to be eliminated. But these energies, they can be redirected. So just like she focused her love on Kapila Dev, and that became the catalyst for her final liberation. Because see, as souls, we have emotions. And we're supposed to use everything in Krishna service, right? You can't stop your emotions and become like a very stoic person, right? Like, I don't have no feelings, or, I'm detached, like that. But no, actually we have to have these feelings of love, and they're there. So, so we're going to see the Bhagavatam, its purports, they make this knowledge very accessible, and you get some really surprising insights, actually. So it's like, okay, this is like an ancient son-mother chat, right? But it's actually challenging our conventional wisdom of what we think of spiritual purity. It's not just an old story, but it's practical wisdom, devotion, talks about the divine nature, talks about how we can get free from this birth and death. So, as mentioned, she became free from all her ignorance, and this was her background for her liberation. So it's a very practical way to get free. As we read, as we study, we hear the classes, this is the background for our liberation, because by hearing, we become purified. And this is what happened to Devahūti. And so this key concept that we hear is jivan mukti, that she became liberated even while she was living in her material body. So even same with us, like Prabhupada says, who is a pure devotee? All my disciples are pure devotees. We may not be pure like a ripe mango, but we're connected. And gradually, as more and more we become purified, we become more and more ripe in our spiritual understanding and realizations. So this path is actually very easy. And that was the promise from Kapila Dev. He told her that you can just execute this system without difficulty. And very soon you'll be liberated, even within your present body. So this is direct assurance. So, we don't need to be fearful of this material contamination. This is the way to get out. So, and then Kapila departs, we see at the end of the chapter there. And it's amazing, after he fulfilled his mission, all the celestial beings, they celebrated him. And then the ocean, they offered him a place at Ganga Sagara. That's where the Ganges meets the sea. And they say he's still there in trance. His trance is for the deliverance of all the conditioned souls. So this shows you this Sankhya philosophy. It's very authentic. It's original. So we're very fortunate to have that. So then I did a little bit diving deep into my own research here, and I came up with some insights I'd like to share. So first, how this divine is accessible. It's amazing. So what happens is that he takes birth as a son. Isn't this amazing? So, it's like in her meditation, she was realizing that, even Brahma, he creates this entire universe. He's Aja, he's unborn. And because he appears from the lotus navel of the Supreme Lord, right? Yet that same personality, the source of countless universes, is the origin of Brahma, and he chose to be born from my abdomen. So this is amazing. So Kapila's form, existed before creation. It's completely spiritual. And so here, she's saying, well, Brahma had to meditate for ages just to begin to see you properly. And here you're coming as my baby. It's so amazing. So just see that infinite power and infinite relationship. So this shows he has inconceivable powers, but it's not just controlling, he's what is it called, achintya shakti. It's not just from afar, but he's the ultimate overseer of creation, maintenance, dissolution. But he chooses the most intimate and dependent relationship, becoming a baby. Can you imagine that? That's just amazing. So this is his redefining his divine majesty. It's not just power, but it's intimacy. It's accessible. And so then I had this a new word that came up. It came up several times in our philosophy. Has anybody ever, of course I mentioned that word in the beginning, this condescension. Anyone knows what that means? Condescension. That's what I was, how can you say God is his profound condensation? So I had to look it up. And then one thing I did is I came here. I'll share with the first thing I found was, this is from Bhaktivinoda Vaibhava, when he's talking about the spiritual world. And he's asked this question: can the living entity understand that the spiritual world exists within the material world, but remains untouched by matter? And this is his answer. He's quoting from the Brahma Samhita 5.2. He says, poor human understanding cannot possibly make out how the extensive triquadrantal, it's from the Brahma Samhita, so you know what that means? Triquadrantal, which is beyond human comprehension, can be accommodated in the limited material universe of the uniquadrantal disclosure. So Gokula is a spiritual plane, hence its condescended position in the region of material space, time, etc., is in no way restricted but unlimitedly manifested with its full, boundless propriety. So it actually means he actually descends. So the most powerful, the most beautiful, the most spiritual decides to come to this material plane. But yet when he comes here, we may think, oh, he's material just like me. But no, he's not. It still maintains, as this Brahma Samhita says, it still maintains its spiritual nature. So yeah, as the definition is to look down on someone with superiority or talking down to people, right? But when you look at it in the positive way, the divine condensation, God's coming down to human level. What more human than a baby, right? You know, he's voluntarily lowering his status out of love, right? He's making himself accessible. The infinite is making himself accessible to the finite. That's just incomprehensible. It's amazing. So yeah, she's saying, you know, he's the source of all the universes, you know, but yet he comes to be a helpless infant. And the one who creates Brahma is dependent on my milk, right? He's the cosmic controller, but yet I have to teach him how to walk. Yeah, it's amazing. So this is condescension in the best definition, in the best means. So this is amazing. So this is his voluntary humanity, his not forced, his humility, his humility to become, it's chosen out of love. You know, the unreachable becomes reachable. You know, so this divine love it's so great that status doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is your sincerity, your love. You see? So, yeah, it's amazing. And we can imagine, you can imagine the world's most powerful person, you know, choosing to become completely dependent on someone they love. Just like that story Prabhupada tells, who is it, Gladstone? You know, he became a horsey for his little boy, his little son or grandson, I don't know what he was. But yeah, so in the same way, Krishna decides to come down. So this is his condescension. Gladstone condescended from his big position to a horsey, to a toy, a playful toy for his son. You know, it's amazing. So then, so this is a few more things. We talked about the banyan leaf cosmic vision, and this is such an divine, inconceivable paradox that we discussed. So then another one is this universal qualification. In the beginning we heard about how, I think I gave class on this actually last time, the dog eaters, they're instantly eligible. How is that? You know, you're born in a family of dog eaters and you become eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. You see why? Just because you once uttered the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is him condensating on your tongue, you know, for everybody. So even the Chandala, they're outcasts, social, you know, from the social structure. They're actually the lowest rung. They're totally disqualified for Vedic rituals, but yet they become eligible. So this redefines our merit. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, it makes you immediately eligible for the highest spiritual practices. it's not just the start of your purification. It's evidence that you completed this inner transformation. As said, he must have executed all kinds of austerities, fire sacrifices. He achieved all the good manners of the Aryans, you know. So this chanting, it proves that they've already achieved the results of other processes internally. So it's another important point, is internally. Externals is just there, but internally, internals is what matters. So that's the merit redefined, is that it's not about our external acts or birth, but it's from our heart's sincerity. But there's conditions, actually. You know, it transcends all social barriers, but there was conditions met that it has to be offenseless, not for material gain or like a job. I have to go chant now. I have to check in. But no, it has to be with the heart. It has to be sincere devotion, not just lip service. Right? So we have the example of Haridas Thakur, Prabhupada talks about in the purport. He's born outside the system, but he's revered as the Nam Acharya. Right? So that's amazing. So here, instant pure spiritual purification. So here's the merit redefined by sincerity. And then internal transformation. So we have consciousness over circumstances, right? That, so we see Devahūti's practical path here. Austerity she was performing amidst all her opulences. We heard about her opulent home, many classes, and how they're elevated beings. They're much more elevated than demigods, and they have such opulences. It's like, what is it, 100,000 times or 10,000 times multiplied on every level, we heard from Chaitanya. Yeah, so it's like amazing. So she was practically on paradise on earth, right? The walls were crested with jewels. There were gardens, you know. It was envied by beings from celestial planets. So she did austerities. So what was her practice? Even though she was amidst all this stuff, she did her regulated activities. Her bathing, you know, she was performing simple austerities, and she was wearing simple clothes, you know, things like that. So there's this principle, yukta means regulated. Her lifestyle was regulated. So she was eating only Krishna prasadam, minimizing sleep, sense activities. She was constantly meditating on Lord Kapila. So it's not that she was meditating on the loss, but actually she was, you know, like she wasn't sorrow because she lost all these material comforts. They were there. But internally, she was completely unattached, and she was just totally meditating on Lord Kapila. So she got that higher taste, deep love for the Supreme Person. And so what happened is her opulences just seemed insignificant. So the spiritual attachment, it automatically creates this detachment from our material luxury. And then the last point is, how do we practically apply this, you know, in our daily lives? So we see, we can practically chant. Anybody could chant Hare Krishna, right? It's open for everybody. We don't charge, you know. And we could also regulate our living, our sleeping, our eating, you know, everything we do, recreation even, how we maintain our body. All these things we can practically apply everything. So, yeah. And then it's basically our attitude and how this applies to our modern society today. So we can ask ourselves, where do we place our deepest attachments? Where do we invest our heart most strongly? And maybe we could reevaluate the connections that we have through this wisdom that we're hearing. You know, how can we make everything that we do lasting satisfaction, not just some brief titillating sensual experience. So this is very important here. So yeah. Let's see what else. I had some references here, but yeah, this has really stopped me. This condensation thing was really amazing, how that happened. And so, yeah, it's this merit has really struck me, is how it redefines our heart's sincerity, not by our external status or what we have or own, but it's actually our heart, who we're, our sincerity, where we're at right now. We have to really analyze that. So here's that metaphor. The cow it's a very it's you see the emotional connection, right? So you imagine this. I think it's kind of like a Sarabi cow. Try to create here, but it has its love, right? It's all just consumed by the love this mother cow has for her calf, and so she cries day and night if it's lost. And so this shows very powerful raw emotion, and so this described Devahūti's feelings. And then consider, it's described as we read on, that this is exact same intensity of attachment which normally binds us to the material world. It can become the very vehicle for our liberation, when the object of that emotion or attachment is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the essence of purified attachment. It's not becoming emotionless, but it's about loving with the same intensity, but in a way that frees you, right? So that's described there. So that's, there's so many things we could talk about. This such, between ordinary grief and spiritual grief. But I'd like to quote something from text 22. And this shows the spiritual yearning. And this Prabhupada again brings it out. Here's a practical example how one can elevate oneself in spiritual advancement by Krishna consciousness. Kapila Dev is Krishna, and he appeared as the son of Devahūti. After Kapila Dev left home, Devahūti was absorbed in thought of him, and thus she was always Krishna conscious. Her constant situation in Krishna consciousness enabled her to be detached from hearth and home. Unless we are able to transfer our attachment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there's no possibility of becoming freed from material attachment. So we can connect this back to text number 1. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the system of philosophy enunciated by Lord Kapila Dev to his mother is the background for the situation of this spiritual platform. As I mentioned, the knowledge she learned, everything was the background for that. So that's the system of this philosophy. It's Siddhi Bhumin. It's the background for salvation. So we have to take advantage of that. So you see these intense feelings are tools for our liberation. But they have to be properly directed. So here we see how is it relevant for our contemporary practices? We see so many different people doing so many different activities. So this came from her. We see that she had this meditation from grief, and then it went to focus. So she channeled all her powerful feelings of separation from her son, which is an emotion described not as ordinary attachment, but sincere love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this was the cause of her to become unattached, and for her meditation, we'll see it starts in the next verse. So she begins to constantly contemplate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And those are in text 24 to 25. So it was continuous, it's described, it became, She became situated in knowledge, yukta anusthana, and text 26 to 29, it talks about the different stages of attachment, of attainment from Brahman to Paramatma to Bhagavan. And so from that, all her pangs were gone and she forgot her material body. And despite her material position, she actually became spiritualized. She became so absorbed in Krishna that she was unaware of her physical condition. It's described her hair was disarrayed, her clothes were disarrayed. In so many ways it was very insignificant. It's described like a dream. You wake up from a dream, oh yeah, I dreamt I was doing this and that, but oh, that's just a dream. So it's the same way we'll see our body, oh, this is just a dream. But we could utilize it in Krishna's service. So then there's a nice solution that's proposed, and it's described here. To say nothing of spiritual advancement, those are the verses about, I'm not going to read the verses, but it's about even if you're born in a family of dog eaters, you're worshipable, right? And if the holy name is on the tip of your tongue, then that's sufficient for purification, right? And there was a lecture I listened to, Srila Prabhupada said, he says, we do not give up anything. Everything Krishna's when it is utilized for Krishna. So it's from a lecture Srila Prabhupada gave. So he quoted from this third canto actually, but it was a different chapter. So yeah, we don't give up anything, everything Krishna's. But when utilized for Krishna, it's Krishna's energy, utilize it for Krishna, then that's bhakti. That's what he describes. So that's a nice thing. So we see, we just do everything. Whatever we do just do it in a regulated way with a higher purpose to please Krishna. So in that way, we become purified. And you see all different activities, it's all focused towards Krishna. So just see. We could say, oh, this is Devahūti and Kardama Muni. How can we compare ourselves to them? Look at his mystic power. Look at the place they lived. I mean, how can we compare with our journey to their journey, right? Look at that beautiful, city, flying city practically. And so, how can we replicate that in our lives? So we have to see how it can be universally applied. And that's how we should dive deep to understand these things. So this is the practical at-home application. So this is very interesting. So in the beginning, I used to always think, that to become a spiritualist, you actually have to go and live in a cave in the mountains, right? I actually did that. I took a leave of absence. I was working, and as a mechanical engineering draftsman, and so you dream about the professional world, right? And then when you get there, it's like you're so disappointed because it's like, wow, this reminds me of high school. These people are so immature, and it's such like a, dirty jokes, and so many things happen. So I took a leave of absence. I'll go live in the mountains with some macrobiotics. So then I was doing TM at the time, and so I went into this cave and I was meditating, doing my mantra, thinking, I'm spiritual. But then all of a sudden you hear some rustling, and then there's I kind of open my eyes, and there's a bear at the entrance of the cave. So then I don't know, I just remained calm, and I figured, what to do. And then it walked away, so then I quietly left and got out of there. But all the time I was there, I was thinking of relationships, how it was nice being at home, and the relationships you have with your sisters and your brothers, and things like that. It was so you miss that, right? And we hear about the journey home, right, from Radha Swami. He actually did live in the caves and did perform mysticism and all these things. But yet, what did his journey lead to? Home, right? Home, where you have relationships, where you have, facilities and things you could use in Krishna's service. So this is what happened. So without leaving her home, her opulent places, she actually just changed her consciousness. This is yukta vairagya. And she did it in a regulated way for a higher purpose. And she developed that higher taste, and that was a solution. So Prabhupada says in text 26 purport, similarly, when one seriously discusses the subject matter of the form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes situated in meditation on him. If one has complete knowledge of the Supreme Lord, the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman is automatically realized. The Absolute Truth is realized by the knower according to 3 different angles. So it talks about the different angles, Brahman, Paramatma. So that shows a direct path. So Prabhupada also says, he always quotes this verse. You heard that word? Tepas tapas te Jehuva sasner arya. That's in text 7, actually. Prabhupada quotes that all throughout. So it's getting time. But let me just quote this one where he says that we have to use everything in Krishna service. So yeah, so that's raw austerities, that we use everything for Krishna. So it's getting late, I have more to say, but let's just open it up for any discussion or comments and realizations about this. Maybe how we, yes? Someone has a question, the mic is coming. Oh, you can, okay. Okay. So he has a comment, but he's opening it up, asking someone if they have a question. You could go first.
Okay, Prabhu.
So go ahead, Prabhu.
When you were mentioning about, when you show the picture of the cow crying, and for the attachment that she had for the calf, I immediately thought about the Krishna book, in which the inhabitants of Vrindavan, having that strong attachment for Krishna, crying and grieving. So Krishna told his best friend, Uddhava, please bring a message to the inhabitants of Vrindavan so they can be relieved. And as we know, Uddhava, it is said that he's like the disciple of Brihaspati. He's very knowledgeable, he has high philosophy. So he went and started talking to them. At one point he saw that Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, the gopis, they're crying. So he thought, how can I tell them to stop crying? That will be like, that's a perfect thing to do for Krishna. So that thought, that reflection came to me. And we know that they didn't even know that Krishna was God, because Krishna was just the child, the loving child of Vrindavan.
The perfection of crying.
Perfection of crying, grieving, or whatever struggles we go through. But if it's for Krishna, 100%, it's totally okay. And in another context also we have the, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was one of the most busy personality in his, the minister. He has 11 children, he has so many duties, but yet he was fixing his sadhana that when he went to his home, it is mentioned that his home was like Vaikuntha.
Yeah, even his service was, he thought of it as an offering to the Supreme Lord to bring justice, because he was a high court judge. So everything he used for Krishna.
So going back to the Uddhava, when he saw all that much love and attraction that they had for Krishna, he came to one realization: I just want to take birth as a grass outside Vrindavan. So when the gopis walks, the dust of their feet fall on my head.
Jai. Thank you for that. Yes. Oh yeah, right here, please. The only hand up.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we have Krishna at the center, and it's easy to get maybe familial, to think Krishna is our friend and to think he's our well-wisher, our lover, things like that. but it,
He is.
how can we develop that, but maybe not in a way that's sentimental, or where we actually, unless we're actually on that platform and Krishna has reciprocated that directly, should the mood more be in a separation and like Satchidananda you pointed out that actually until we develop that proper mood, shouldn't we as devotees actually develop friendships, and then hopefully, and then as an offering or as a way of cooperation, and our relationship with Krishna is more like in separation? Is that a good question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're right on. But I'd like to quote Prabhupada again in the purport, which I thought of when you asked your question. Every woman can qualify herself as much as Devahūti and then also have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear as the son of Devahūti, he can also appear as the son of any other woman, provided that woman is qualified. So as you mentioned, we have to become qualified. And as I was mentioning, using Devahūti's journey as like a blueprint that we can follow, is to first hear this knowledge, become purified. It's so simple. Even a dog eater can chant Hare Krishna. We become purified in that way by chanting and by engaging yukta viragya. Our daily activities, when we sleep, it's for Krishna. We wake up, we clean for Krishna. Everything we do is for Krishna. Is it for Krishna or is it for me? That's the question, yeah. So that's our qualification. Yes, Naikatma Prabhu has a comment or question.
Thank you for your answer, Prabhu. It's Krishna consciousness is not all about. It's not about artificially coming to some level, or pretending that I'm on this level of bhakti or something.
Sahajism.
Yeah. It's sahajiya. Yeah. The whole matter is listening from an authorized personality.
Exactly.
And Devahūti is a good example of that. Not that she was developing some artificial sentiment, but she heard from her son, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and later on, in the following verses, it's described how she then engaged in devotional service with a fixed mind and properly situated. So it's all about hearing and not artificially putting yourself on some level or trying to pretend you're in this rasa or that you have this kind of a relationship. It's not like that.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, it's important to understand the background of our knowledge, is to hear like she did from her beautiful son. Yes, over here, please. Thank you, Prabhu. That was a good comment.
I have a comment on detachment. It's a quote from a Guru Maharaj. I experienced a death of a close relative relatively early in my spiritual path. So I was in the question, how do I address that? I know philosophically this person doesn't die, but how do I address my separation? So my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Renounced Swami, answered that question in one of his lectures. He spoke on detachment on the example of Vidura. When Vidura came back to, I forgot. Yeah, so all like his Bhishma was dead, like all this great personality who he loved dearly were dead. So he was in so much sadness. He was experiencing pain. So my Guru Maharaj said that this exalted people doesn't mean that they don't feel anymore. They feel even greater because of capacity of their heart. So detachment means that, that's the direct quote, detachment means that the pains of this world do not interrupt, but rather they enhance your absorption and taking shelter of Krishna and serving Krishna's instructions. So the capacity of feeling becomes even greater. So then I understood that instead of spiritually bypassing, I bring my emotions to Krishna, because he became my greatest friend. And when we go with the friend through something deep as that, our friendship deepens so much. So if I live through that with him, which means taking shelter of him right in that moment, not distracting myself with the service, because I did do that's a little different, but actually, exercise it in my heart. So you said that capacity to experience emotions then becomes purified and then becomes towards Krishna. But for now, to open our heart, that's what we can do in my very contaminated level. And otherwise, like so many yogis not praised in Srimad Bhagavatam, because they have all these mystic powers and everything, but their hearts are very hardened.
Yeah. That's true. Thank you for sharing that. It's beautiful. Yeah, it reminded me of Arjuna also. You know how his son died, but he kept going. He didn't give up his service for Krishna. But yet he cried. So now is time to end the class. Sorry for going over. Thank you for your kind attention and patience. Hare Krishna. No way.